If you're just starting out, you need to know the best e-commerce platforms that you could possibly get your hands on. Today, I'm going to be tier ranking some of the top e-commerce platforms on the market right now. If you're interested in web design, side hustles, or anything tech, make sure you hit the like on this video so we can share it with more people. My name is Jerry from Synergy Digital, helping you excel in your careers or your side hustles. And with that out of the way, let's jump into it. Alright, so taking a look at the list here, we have Shopify, BigCommerce, SquareSpace, WebFlow, Weebly, Wix, and WooCommerce. So if we're looking at the tier list here, you have no brainer, meaning this is the best recommendation. It's the S tier. You should go with this one. Then we have great, good, needs improving, and don't use, which obviously means if it's in that list, you should not be using it because it's not good. And automatically off the bat, similar to my website builder tier list, we're putting Weebly in do not use because you just shouldn't use it. So the biggest reason that I'm putting Weebly in the do not use category is because it offers very limited customization. Now mind you, there are some really nice templates for Weebly, don't get me wrong, but your ability to customize them and do whatever you want with them is very limited unless you know CSS, but even then I wouldn't recommend Weebly for using CSS. It's just not the best platform for that, and there's a ton others, as you will see on this list, that just stack up way higher. Also, from what I understand, I've never used it specifically for e-commerce, but I've heard that there's slow processing times on it, and I've heard that there's some transactional issues when it comes to Weebly, as well as the inventory platform on the back end to track everything you have, and your overall e-commerce platform, which is the whole purpose of this video, it's not really present in Weebly. Could you get away with selling stuff on it? Absolutely. I mean, you could get away with selling stuff on all of these, but Weebly in particular, if you're starting an e-commerce store, there's really nothing here. It's almost like Weebly just had to check off the mark and say, oh, we have e-commerce, because just don't use it. There's no reason in the world to use it. Oh, and if you didn't notice already, I'm going to be putting the starting price and the free trial for all of these right next to the logo, so just look out for that. And since we already started at the bottom tier, we're going to go up from here. So we have don't use. Up next, we have needs improving. I'm going to put one that I really think needs improving, and that is WebFlow. I'm going to put that in that list. Okay, so unlike how Weebly has no customization, WebFlow is the most customizable website builder on the market. It's one of the best website builders on the market, but its e-commerce really does need improving. So first off, one of the most important things about running an e-commerce store is you want to be able to track your inventory. You want to be able to see your products, easily change them, and maintain everything in your store, because that's the whole point of e-commerce. But in WebFlow, you don't really have that. You don't have a really strong backend for e-commerce. Yeah, there is somewhat of a backend, but it doesn't really showcase much of what you need. There's still a lot that can be done from that perspective, but overall, you could customize however you want your cart, you could customize your gallery, the product page itself to literally whatever you want, and that makes it really awesome. But because it's lacking in that foundation of not having a good backend, I can't say it's a great website builder for e-commerce. Also, there's still a question to WebFlow's vulnerability when it comes to processing payments, so I stay a little bit farther away from that, but I don't think it's the end of the world if you use it. I don't think anything crazy is going to happen. I just don't know from personal experience. I've tried it out. I just don't really trust it yet. I think it's just a little too new and can use a lot of updates before I could put it in the good or great tier for this. I don't see it going into no-brainer for quite some time. All right, so moving on to the good category, we have two here, and the first one I want to talk about is our good friend Wix. So as we've talked about in my best website builders video, there's a lot to love about Wix. There's free templates that are especially great for e-commerce. There's a simple setup process which makes onboarding for no matter where you are in your web design career, it makes it very simple. And there's a lot of marketing automation tools that are really great for the user when you're doing everything. However, there's a couple things here that are a little bit nitpicky, but I'm not going to say this is a bad e-commerce platform because it does have some awesome standout features, but there's a couple things that they could do a little bit better of a job on. So that's why they're not any higher than they are. And that's, you may have a bit of a weaker SEO performance on Wix because their SEO platform just isn't really that great. And that also goes up with the other ones here on this list, WebFlow and Weebly. WebFlow is a little bit better as far as SEO goes, but there's a couple things obviously stronger about Wix. That's why it's in good and WebFlow isn't in good, as well as there's a lot of improvements that WebFlow could use. But having poor SEO isn't something you really want when you're trying to make sales at scale. Another thing about it that I'm not really a big fan of is there's not many options for upselling capabilities within Wix, making it hard to really create the store that you want. So that's one of the things that's like, they could really improve that, and when they do, I think it could head towards more of the great category. The last thing is their integrations with services like Amazon are not that strong yet, and I think they could use some time to improve them. But for now, I'm keeping Wix in good because that's really where it belongs. And then the other one that's very similar in ranking would be Squarespace. Squarespace is very similar to Wix in that it's very easy to set up your site. It's excellent for simple online stores, and honestly, they have some of the nicest templates that I have seen. They're awesome looking, they have a lot of customization, and they're really just all around good sites. But the thing here is there is a bit of a limitation as far as e-commerce integrations goes. There's a limit on payment gateways, and there's really not much customer support for Squarespace, making it hard when you do encounter any problems. Other than that, Squarespace and Wix are fairly similar. I mean, they are direct competitors. They have a lot of similar backends, they have a lot of similar support and things like that. And other than the limit in payment gateways, the limit in integrations, and customer support, I don't really have much to attest to for Squarespace because I've never personally used it for e-commerce or a website in general. But as far as research goes on the capabilities of both Wix and Squarespace, as well as the others on the list, I think it really fits well in the good category. Don't think it's great, I don't think it's a no-brainer, but it does fit well in good. They have gorgeous templates, there is a lot to offer there, but I think they could do a lot to improve. And yes, I think I've mentioned the word improve a few times in this relative to things that are in the good category and not the needs improving category, but that's because I really do think Wix and Squarespace stand out just a little bit above WebFlow right now. I think that's going to change, but as of right now, I think they are just better. That's why they're in good. All right, so going forward, we have great and the no-brainer category. So this is where they start to get really strong. Anything between great and no-brainer are things that I definitely recommend. I even, of course, recommend things in the good category, but great and no-brainers, those are obviously the ones you should go with. And starting off the great list, we have BigCommerce. So there's a reason some big corporations use BigCommerce for their e-commerce, and that's because it really has great flexibility and scalability. It also is dominant in multi-channel selling, and it has strong SEO performance, making it stand out among everything else below it. I mean, there's a reason that Sony, Ubisoft, Razer, and some other major companies use BigCommerce. Now, because it's great for scalability, you could expect that the higher you go and the more sales you make, the more you're going to have to pay for those sales from BigCommerce. You're going to have to pay them more. Like I mentioned, you'll see the pricing right now for BigCommerce on the screen, but it varies plan to plan. There's a lot to go there. Another thing is, at the time of recording this video, BigCommerce does not have one-click selling, so that's a bit of a tidbit with it, but in the future it's probably going to get it, hopefully, so that may make it even more of a no-brainer. But for right now, I think it fits perfectly in great because it has everything you need. It's great for scaling. That's it really is. It says so much that companies like Sony, Ubisoft, Razer, and a ton others use it. But I think, I don't think it's that no-brainer choice when it comes to pricing. I don't think it's that no-brainer choice when it comes to things like no one-click selling, high volume, you have to pay a little bit more, and inconsistent loading speeds. Those things keep it in great. So moving on, we have another e-commerce platform in the great category, and that is going to go to WooCommerce. Now, really quickly, for those of you who don't know, WooCommerce is a plugin that integrates directly with your WordPress websites. And Obviously, WordPress is the most well-known website builder on the market with, I think it's like 42% of the internet using WordPress. WooCommerce is really a no-brainer as far as a e-commerce plugin goes on WordPress. But there are some things that keep it out of that no-brainer category, and I kind of wanted to address them in this video. Let's start with a couple of the things that make WooCommerce so great, and that's that it is by far the best on this list for SEO. There is nothing better. WordPress has the most integrations for SEO. There's so much you could do with it, and really, if you care most about it, this should be a no-brainer for you. But like I said, there's a couple setbacks. I'm going to continue on with a couple pros, such as one-click selling. That is available here, which makes it stand out even more than BigCommerce. And actually, as a matter of fact, because of that, I am going to move it. I'm going to move it ahead of BigCommerce, even though it's in the great category, so they're both on the same tier. WooCommerce does stand out just a little bit more because it has that one-click selling, and also there's a ton of service providers that you could go with WooCommerce. There's a ton of payment gateways you could go with, and there's literally endless customization with WooCommerce because it's built on WordPress, so there's a lot to love about it. But some of the downsides are that the hosting itself is very expensive. It could be. If you really care about scale, you really need to have good hosting, and with WordPress, it's not that cheap. You know, it depends where you go. Obviously, you could do some smaller, cheaper hosting platforms such as SiteGround and things like that, but if you want the best performance for your WooCommerce site, you're not going to want to go with cheap hosting. You want the best of the best. WordPress alone has a lot of bloat in it. Then you add the plugins, then you add WooCommerce and all its plugins. You're running a pretty slow site if you're using not the best hosting, so you want strong hosting. And if you don't have it, you're missing out. But you got to pay for that. So I think that is one of the stronger cons of it. I know BigCommerce has hosting built in, so that's something of note here. But, you know, also another thing that WooCommerce, you know, doesn't do the best is troubleshooting. Because there are endless plugins with WordPress, because there is so much going on there, it can often be hard to troubleshoot when a problem occurs. Let's say you're running 10 plugins and then WooCommerce and another 10 plugins specifically for WooCommerce, and one of them breaks your gallery. Well, how do you fix it? First, you got to disable all the plugins, then you got to go find which one caused the problem, then you got to make a choice. Do you want to keep that plugin? Do you want to fix it? Do you want to try to figure out code for it or contact support, who God knows where that is? It's kind of a mess when it comes to an error in WordPress and specifically WooCommerce. So I think that keeps it, again, under no-brainer because it's just not worth it for people who really need that support. And then the third thing that's a con about WooCommerce is, well, like I mentioned, it requires a lot of extensions. If you want to make the most of WooCommerce, you need plugins for everything, whether it's adding PayPal, whether it is using something like cart flows. No matter what you do, you need extensions really to let it run properly. Yeah, of course, you could use the basic version of WooCommerce, but there is so much there that you could customize to your liking, and it may bloat up your site in the process. But again, even though that is a pretty big con of it, I'm not going to say that WooCommerce is worse than anything else on this list, BigCommerce included, because WooCommerce you could do whatever you want with. So I really think it is very special for that. And now finally, we're at the no-brainer category, and it's a no-brainer that the only thing remaining on this list is going to be in it, and that's Shopify. So yes, just to nip a couple things in the bud right before we go ahead, yeah, there are templates for Shopify, unlike WooCommerce and even something like WebFlow where you could create whatever you want. But there is so much more to love about Shopify that makes it stand out among everything else on this list. So first things first, what makes Shopify so special is that it is very fast and there is so much to add on to it. Obviously, having add-ons was a con for something like WooCommerce, but here with Shopify, there's endless possibilities that really do not bloat up or slow down the site as much as WooCommerce. Another strong con about Shopify is it's more than just a website builder with e-commerce integration. It is basically everything you need to get off the ground running. The inventory system on the back end is fantastic. Your ability to make collections, sales, discounts, gift cards, any payment gateway you want, it is top tier here. And the best thing about it is it really does start at an affordable price package. Obviously, I mean, you could see on the screen right now, but it starts at $29 per month, which makes it so easy for anyone at any stage in e-commerce to get right into it. There are, of course, some small limitations at that price point, but who cares? I mean, you're getting the whole platform at $29 per month, and it's great for anyone, especially drop shipping. If you're a drop shipper just starting out, Shopify is really the only solution you should go with. There's amazing integrations with things like Alibaba and other drop shipping services, and it makes for a really pleasant experience. And to put the cherry on top of all of this, there's one-click selling here, which makes it really special. There's only 3 cons here that I want to talk about, and then we're going to wrap up, and that's first things first, it's not the best as far as SEO goes. There could be a better option such as WooCommerce, even something like WebFlow and other things like that, but it has enough there off the bat just to get you on the ground running, and then from there you could add plugins that make it a little bit better, but out the box, not the best. You can live with that if you get everything else, honestly. There's so much here to love. And the next thing here is the checkout option is not customizable too much if you don't know any code. So you got to look out for that, but it really offers everything you need. So you shouldn't be worrying too much as it is. And the last thing here is some of the apps and plugins that work with Shopify get expensive over time. Most of the plugins or add-ons that you could get for Shopify do not start free, which is a bit of a downside, but what they offer are some amazing things, and at scale, it can be great, but at scale, like I said, it does go up in price, so some of those add-ons can really run you some money. Overall, Shopify just has everything in a really nice, easy-to-use package for anyone at any stage and offers amazing scalability. No, this video is not sponsored by Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, Wix, SquareSpace, WebFlow, or even Weebly, but I really do love Shopify the most out of everything on this list. That's my hill to die on. That's what I have to say about all of these e-commerce platforms, and I hope you found this very informative. Alright, so thank you so much for watching my video of the best e-commerce platforms that you could possibly get your hands on. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button so we could share this with more people, and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all things web design, side hustles, and technology. And with that, I'm Jerry from Synergy Digital. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.